like to call the Norwood Board of Education meeting for November 19th, 2020 to order. The Norwood City School District Board of Education follows a bi-monthly meeting schedule. The first meeting of the month is called our committee meeting. At this meeting, we discuss fully our agenda for the board meeting to be held every third Thursday of each month. As board members, we encourage everyone to attend, watch, and listen our committee discussion resulting in action at board meetings. For full disclosure, our committee meetings and board meetings are always announced, video and audio taped, as well as posted to our webpage for your view. All of our meetings are public and visitors are always welcome. Ms. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood.
Present.
Mrs. Cole.
Present.
Ms. Ballard.
Present.
Mrs. Rayburn.
Present.
Mrs. Rarica.
Present.
All right, item 1.03 is of our Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag
To the flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 1.04 is the adoption of tonight's agenda. And I would like to make a motion that we adopt the agenda as written. Hold on just one.
Second it.
Alice seconds. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Atwood.
Yes.
Mrs. Cole. Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Mrs. Rayburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
All right, with that, the agenda has been adopted for tonight. We'll move on to item 1.05 and 1.06, which are the minutes for the regular board meeting held October 22nd, 2020, and the minutes for the committee meeting held November 10th, 2020. I'd like to make a motion that we approve these minutes.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Cole. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood.
Yes.
Mrs. Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Ballard.
Yes.
Mrs. Rayburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
With that, the motion carries and the minutes have been approved. We'll move on to item number 2 in our agenda, which is presentations, starting with item number 2.01.
Thank you, President Atwood. I'm going to start by letting everyone know and hoping they will join the Norwood City School District in congratulating Layla Kubesh on 2 additional honors that she has received. You know, as everyone knows, Layla Kubesh, a teacher at Norwood Middle School, is the Ohio 2020 Teacher of the Year. But now she has 2 additional honors to her credit. On October 26, Toyota and the National Center for Families announced that Layla is the 2020 Toyota Family Teacher of the Year. The Toyota Foundation Awards, it actually honors educators who are exceptional at using intergenerational approaches to engage students and their families in education. And this was a surprise announcement. It was done virtually in front of her class, and the honor includes a $20,000 check. And that's I believe you can see there on the screen, there's the big check that they awarded us. Then on this, literally the same week, Horace Mann, a financial services company that has served educators for 75 years, and the NEA Foundation announced that Layla was one of 5 educators nationally to receive the 2021 Horace Mann Award for Teaching Excellence. And that is awarded to top educators from around the nations for their diligence and dedication to students, colleagues, their community, and their professions. And she received a $10,000 award from Horace Mann. So I would like everyone in Norwood to congratulate Layla and ask her to say a few words and talk about how you're going to use those monies to help students and families. So Layla.
Thank you for inviting me to share a few words about the awards. First, for a teacher to succeed, there needs to be support of school leaders. And I am grateful to have that from all of my administrators in both the middle and high school, being allowed to take risks, to try new things, to listen to students and what they hope to do. And that's the reason for the awards. So what am I going to do with all that money? The Horace Mann Award comes with a $10,000 cash prize given to me as a personal gift. For a brief moment, I thought about all the classes that I would like to take, but it's going to go for a much greater purpose. All of it was already committed to the English Language Arts, English Language Advisory Committee. It's a division of the Ohio Department of Education. It's going to support teachers across the state of Ohio to create videos, gather resources for educators, family, and students in one website. And then the Toyota Award comes with a $20,000 grant, and that's going to be used to host parent academies. It is not to teach parents how to parent, they got all that covered, but to connect families to resources, community leaders, and opportunities for their children, and do anything they wish. If, I believe in the power of partnership. I always say that two heads are better than one. And I believe in family engagement for the success of all the students. So the Academy will include, we'll have cap and gown graduation. It will also invite families from other districts. And so for anyone who's interested, contact me. If you're not a parent, you can still contact me to serve in any capacity. And for me, it's really to say thank you to all the parents in the Norwood community. Whenever I asked, they have opened the doors to their home. And I thought I was there to teach them about resources like the homework club and any opportunities. And I left blown away by their kindness and the insight that they have given me. Thank you again for inviting me to your board meeting this evening. And I'm always grateful for your support.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Kubesh. Those honors are very much deserved.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to item number 2.02 in our agenda, and that's the presentation of this month's Student Rising Stars.
So tonight we're pleased to announce our Rising Stars, beginning with Norwood High School. Our Rising Star at the high school is Matthew Kelly. Norwood High School would like to recognize senior Matthew Kelly as November's Rising Star Award recipient. Matthew is a role model for others on what it means to be a true leader in our school. He volunteers to help with any task both in and outside of school. Ms. Liss recently commented that he's a great leader in class who includes every student in activities and encourages participation. Recently, Matthew helped unload pallets of food for the kitchen pickup in Norwood without any hesitation or complaint. He is dependable and has a genuine kindness towards everyone. Matthew has been involved in many activities, including karate. He is a second-degree brown belt, attending leadership camps in the summer, and volunteering mentoring special needs campers at a Young Life Cabernet camp. His favorite classes at Norwood High School have been American Government with Mr. Lawler, and he plans on enlisting in the Air National Guard after graduation, with plans on pursuing a career in cybersecurity. Congratulations, Matthew. Next, Norwood Middle School Rising Star, Thailan Thomas. Thailan is respectful, hardworking young man and kind to others. He is eager to learn and does well in his classes. He perseveres in all things. I truly enjoy having Thailan in my class, said Mrs. Covert. Thailand always has a positive attitude in the classroom. He comes to class ready and excited to learn. He asks questions and is a great role model in the class. Thailand is a hardworking, conscientious student in reading and language arts. He has done a great job with working and with an adjusted schedule this school year. Thailand is very diligent about getting his work accomplished, and he takes responsibility for his own learning. Way to go, Thailand. Sharpsburg Rising Star is Julian Wilson. Julian Wilson is a stellar example of a rising star in many ways. First, Julian, with the support of his mother, has done an amazing job adjusting to our new school schedule. While in class, he is focused and on task. He has also successfully completed 100% of his remote assignments. He is active in sports. He has many friends and is appreciated by his classmates. He is consistently respectful and kind to others and is a true example of a PAX leader. He has already learned at a young age the value of making wise choices in tough situations. We are so proud of Julian. Julian loves math and he likes both his teachers, Miss Stryker and Mrs. Kaufman. He loves how much they help him learn new things, and he is enjoying the newly renovated building at Sharpsburg. Julian is well on his way to being an honor roll student this year, and the future is limitless for this bright young rising star. Congratulations, Julian. Norwood View Rising Star is Heidi Silva Martinez. We could not have come up with a more perfect student to choose for our third grade Rising Star student. Heidi Silva Martinez is the picture-perfect definition of one. She is a positive role model for her family, classmates, and teachers. Even during this hard time, Heidi can make anything and everything positive. She is not only a great classmate, but a fantastic sister. Heidi participates in the Avenues for Success program and sits with her little sister and friends, patiently helping them. When she comes bouncing into class with her perfect pigtails and big smile, you can't but help smile too. She comes in each and every day ready to take the world on. Heidi is kind to her classmates, teachers, and other staff members. She befriends everyone she comes in contact with. Heidi works hard, asks questions, and participates in all classes and groups. She loves to talk to her teachers and tell stories. Heidi is definitely a rising star. Williams Avenue Elementary Rising Star is Isabelle Lampe. The 5th grade team is proud to announce Isabelle Lampe for our Rising Star. Isabelle is a hardworking student who is a pleasure to have in class. She can always be counted on to have a positive attitude and lend a hand to anyone in need. She is funny, compassionate, caring, and friendly. She stays focused on her schoolwork and completes all assignments on time. Isabelle is a PAX leader who always works to be her best. She aspires to be a professional hairstylist one day. We are so proud to have Isabelle as our rising star for the month of November. Norwood Virtual Rising Star is Simon Reece. Simon Reece was chosen as our 6th grade rising star this month for being a model virtual student. Simon is diligent, hardworking, and a kind student. He receives the AAA award for the first quarter for academics, attendance, and attitude. Simon is always courteous and polite when asking for help and has maintained a positive attitude about his learning throughout learning in a new manner. He seeks out support when needed, attending voluntary math Google Meet help sessions with Mrs. Centers twice a week. Simon is fortunate to have amazing support at home with his mom and learning coach as well. We are all so proud of him. And now on to our Williams Avenue Elementary Rising Star staff member, Nicole Taylor. It is with pleasure that we nominate Nicole Taylor as the Williams Avenue Aide Rising Star for the month of November. Nicole has shown to be a jack of all trades. She is an aide for kindergarten working with students from 3 different classes. Nicole also has been called on to work with students for individual support, supporting our Chromebook tracking, and filling in for other staff to help in any way she can. She knows that in order for students to be successful, we all have to help. She has enjoyed working on letters, sounds, and numbers with her kindergarten students and has proven to be such a positive asset to our building. She clearly aims to be a positive influence and works to promote smiles throughout the building. Nicole is also the president of the Norwood Athletic Boosters And in that role, she supports our entire athletic program. Congratulations to Nicole Taylor for being the Rising Star Aide for November. Those are all our Rising Stars for Norwood, and we're so very proud of them. Thank you.
I think on behalf of the board, I would just like to congratulate all of our rising stars. Normally, we do this in person and have a photo opportunity, and we get to meet every single individual that's nominated and gets this award. And so this is a little bit different, but it still means the same. So, all right, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 3 in our agenda. And this is the Education Committee report. And I would like to turn this over to Mrs. Rarica.
Unmute myself. We have 2 resolutions tonight. The first one is on State Bill 358, which is about, includes the state vouchers, which have been a really big stress for us at the beginning of the year. And actually, they had a vote about some of it today, which is really disappointing. But so we have our resolution. It is a resolution to support Senate Bill 358 with the additional education items included, and to encourage the 133rd General Assembly to expedite the passage of the bill with those changes. Whereas the state Senate Bill 358 was introduced in August to extend many important provisions of House Bill 197 and House Bill 164 through the 2021 school year, and in certain cases beyond, to provide this flexibility districts need to address the unique circumstances of their communities, their school districts, and their students related to the coronavirus pandemic. And I'll stop there for that one. So I want to make a motion to accept this resolution. Or do you want to do both at the same time?
No, you can do one at a time. That's fine. I'll second that motion. Is there any discussion on this resolution?
I do have a question. Alice, based on what was voted on today, does it influence the things that are in our current resolution at all?
Oh, we don't need to change anything, but it does influence things that happen, but we don't need to change anything here. They did Senate Bill 89 today, which is an old one that we were fighting for in January. So hopefully this one will help correct some of the things they did today.
But Senate Bill 89 was just passed through the Senate again, right?
Yeah, they voted on it today. DeWine still needs to sign on it.
Well, but it hasn't passed the House yet.
Oh, right.
Right, it still has to go to the House.
You're right, yeah.
Okay. All right, Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
All right, with that, our resolution about House Bill 358 passes. And now we'll move on to the other one.
Okay, we have another resolution, and this one is for a companion bill, House Bill 305, to go with our other one. So this is a resolution to endorse the Fair School Funding Plan as introduced in the Senate companion bill to substitute House Bill 305 and to encourage the 133rd General Assembly to expedite the passage of the bill. Whereas the Ohio Supreme Court ruled in Durolf versus State of Ohio in 1997 that Ohio's method of funding schools through the state's school foundation program was unconstitutional under Article 6, Section 2 of the Ohio Constitution. And then it goes on to talk about how we're going to change the school funding. I didn't think you want to hear the whole thing. It's very long. Oh, also, I will ask for a motion to pass this resolution.
Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
I heard Mrs. Cole first. Any discussion on this resolution? So I will say, and looking at this fair school funding bill, if this goes through, slightly gives us a little bit more money, not terribly much more. I mean, I think it was like $700,000 if this passed is what we would get over what we had gotten last year. But keep in mind that at the end of last year, the state cut us $400,000. So in all, this is a wash. I mean, I see this as just keeping us afloat.
If we get it.
True.
Yeah.
True. But, you know, supporting this bill, I think, is important.
There are no appropriations attached to this bill yet. So they have been very honest and said that if it passes, it'll be a 6-year phase in. So that 700,000 extra will come on the 6th year. So as of right now, the state doesn't have enough money to support this fully, which is why they're considering a 6-year phase in. So
Right. But still, I mean, taking a stab, I mean, you know, it's been what, 20 years?
exactly.
Right? Nobody's wanted to tackle the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is
Exactly.
how do you adequately fund public education? So I think this is a step in the right direction, even with a 6-year phase in. I mean, it's at least somebody's trying something.
I agree. You know, we've been funded just based on guarantees for several years with no true funding formula. So it is past time for a fair, transparent funding formula that everyone can understand and really get their hands around. So I agree completely that we need to support this. I'm just a little hesitant about when the money is going to flow to it.
It's anticlimactic. It's like, great, you're doing something, but
Yeah.
I know when I was reading, it was about income taxes. And I'm like, well, how does that make it fair either? But it's better than nothing.
Right.
So yeah, let's support it.
That's right. It's a step in the right direction. We have a motion and a second.
Yeah, any more discussion? Mrs. Camp House, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Yes.
Mrs. Raper,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
All right, with that, House Bill 305, the resolution for that passes. And we're going to move on our agenda to item number 4, which is personnel. And I'd like to turn this over to Superintendent Ronan. You're muted.
Sorry. All right. Thank you, President Atwood. Under 4.01 resignations, we're sorry to announce that Melissa McQueen, who is a student assistant aide, will be leaving us, and we wish her very well in future endeavors. Under 4.02 employment, we have several staff members who are taking on additional duties. In number 1, building technology, Jennifer Brockman and Sean Weisgerber, and getting a small stipend. And in 2, Leslie Hadaway and Robin Brewer are stepping up to be mentor teachers for some of our newer teachers. And in item number 3, our marching band director, Kevin Lockwood, is also going to do our high school pep band director. And that concludes the employment section. Thank you.
All right, I would like to make a motion that we pass items 4.01 and 4.02 as discussed by Superintendent Ronan.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Cole. Any discussion? Mrs. Camp House, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
All right, with that, the employment and resignations all pass. We're going to move on to item number 5 on our agenda, which is the policy committee report. And I'd like to turn this over to Mrs. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is our second reading and approval of these policies. The first several policies have to do with Title IX. AC is a non-discrimination policy. This has been updated with the correct email address. ACA, this is new but not new. It used to be much longer and it has been split into separate policies. So this is the first half of that. ACAA is the second half of the one that I was just mentioning about. And then we have the regulation for those. GCPD and GDPD, we're still talking about Title IX, and this has to do with the suspension and termination of professional staff members and also support staff members. So this is how we respond to that. JEGA, permanent exclusion allows a grievance to take place. This has been updated with legal references and cross references. JFCF, hazing and bullying, once again allows the grievance process to take place and tells us how we must handle it. And then we have the regulation for those, or for that one. JG, student discipline. JGD, student suspension. JGDA, emergency removal of a student. And JGE, student expulsion. Policy KLD, this is public complaints about district personnel, the grievance process that we would follow. And then we have the regulation that goes with that. So everything that I have just mentioned is related to Title IX, and that's everything for that. And then the next couple are in relation to the coronavirus. So we have GBRA, which is a new policy and has to do with the Family Medical Leave Act. And we have a regulation for that. And then GBRAA, which is also a new policy. And this is emergency paid sick leave due to the coronavirus, and then a regulation to do with that. And finally, JED is a change related to this policy. And this has to do with student absences and excuses because of COVID. So that's everything related to the coronavirus. And then we just have 3 more policies that have been in place. And these are being read once again for approval as the citations of Ohio Revised Code have been updated. So JF, this is student rights and responsibilities. KG, community use of school premises. And KJA, distribution of materials in the schools. So I would like to make a motion to approve the second reading and approval of these policies.
I'll second. Any discussion on any of these policies? Mrs. Camp House, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
With that, the second reading is approved and the adoption of those policies as part of our policy manual is being implemented. With that, we are going to move on into our agenda to item number 6, which is the Finance Committee report. And I'll turn this over to our treasurer, Mrs. Camphouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the agenda 6.01, the CFO report, as well as other monthly financial reports, are attached for your review and approval tonight. Also attached are the change order listings and a student enrollment summary report. 6.02, the appropriation resolution, our current annual budget for the year. 6.03, a donation from Kroger Community Rewards to Avenues for Success for $1,399.85. On the agenda, we have that a vote box there if the board chooses to do that.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 6.01 to 6.03.
I'm sorry, it's 6.04. and then a now purchase order also for a McParren, and then the vote box.
See that. I will amend my motion to include 6.04.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayber,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
6.05, the 5-year forecast and assumption. The forecast and assumptions are attached for your approval. We reviewed the forecast in our committee meeting last week and had a nice discussion on that. And then Finance Committee met, and we've discussed it thoroughly also. So the forecast does have a separate vote on the agenda.
I'll motion to approve the 5-year forecast.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the 5-year forecast?
I will say also in discussion that I did amend the forecast from when it was presented to include the BWC refund of $400,000. So that is in our forecast now.
Yeah. And in discussion, I just want to take another opportunity to thank the Norwood voters and the Norwood community for supporting the levy and allowing us to maintain our revenue stream.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood? Yes. Mrs. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayber?
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica?
Yes.
6.06, resolutions in support of additional school improvement limited tax general obligation bond series 2020. So these two resolutions, the first one authorizes us to sell tax exempt bonds to fund the remaining construction project titled Warm, Safe, and Dry from 2016. The second resolution allows us to refund the general fund or the permanent improvement fund if we should use any of those dollars during construction at any time going forward.
I'd like to make a motion to approve both resolutions.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
I do have a question. Julie, I think when we had this presented at the meeting last week, they were talking about it being around 9 million, and now I see it's 11. Is that because our, I guess, was the estimate off, or was the number better suited to our district to need 11, or where did that change come in?
We are approved to ask for 11 million, to sell 11 million in bonds. Personally, we are going to try to keep it at the 9 million range because the debt payments are much more comfortable. So we do not have to tell them the exact amount we need yet. We will go through the Williams bid process. That'll give us a little more definition on the exact amount we'll need to ask for, but I'm hoping to keep it around 9 million.
Okay, thank you.
So in discussion with this, since we will be incurring some debt, the payment for the debt that we are going to incur is going to come directly from the payment in lieu of taxes that we receive. So it's that revenue stream. So what we're going to be using to pay down this debt isn't going to be general fund dollars. It isn't going to be state funded dollars or property tax dollars.
The payment in lieu of tax is inside the general fund, but you are correct. It is a dedicated stream of money coming directly from those payment in lieu of taxes that allows us to borrow this additional money to finish our construction project.
All right, any other discussion? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Raber,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
And the last on our list tonight in finance is the notice to approve the notice, to bidders for the Williams Avenue Elementary Construction Project. We will be accepting bids in a couple of weeks' time. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact date right now for the Williams project.
I'll motion to approve the notice to bidders.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion on this?
Is the date you're looking for, Julie, December 10th? It's like accepting until Thursday, December 10th at 3 p.m.
That's correct, yes. December 10th is the bid opening at 3 p.m.
Any other discussion? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Raber,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
All right, with that, the approved notice to bidders for Williams Avenue construction has passed. We're going to move on in our agenda to item number 7, and this is the hearing of the public. To further improve the communication between the community and the board, time shall be allocated at each regular or special board meeting to hear the public and or representatives of school-related organizations. Public participation at committee meetings is limited to those invited to speak on specific issues. Each person addressing the board should fill out a form listing name, address, and agenda or non-agenda item and hand the form to the board president. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. No more than 15 minutes will be devoted to any one topic unless a majority of the board votes to continue the discussion. Speakers may offer objective criticism of school operations as concerns them. However, the board will not hear personal complaints of school personnel or complaints against any person connected with the district. Those concerns and comments about individuals should be brought to the attention of the administration. With that, I'm aware of 2 emails that we received in our public participation, and I will turn this over to Mrs. Cole.
Okay, the first email that we have is from Kate Sunny Salig, and she writes, Dear Norwood Board of Education, thank you for your continued hard work navigating school policy as it relates to COVID-19. Is there any possibility or plan for the Norwood City School District to remain on an AB hybrid schedule when and if the county moves to purple on the health advisory system? I know many schools have moved away from aligning their policies with Ohio's health advisory system, and I wasn't certain if this has been discussed in our district. I have many families I work with who would prefer a full week of school in person, which in preschool is 4 days per week, settled for 2 days per week in person, and I am concerned they will be devastated with a move of 100% virtual preschool education. Honestly, I will be devastated too. In-person learning is so critical for a young child's healthy development. Again, thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Kate Sunny Salig, Williams Avenue Montessori Preschool. And this last letter that we have is, this is from Christy Pittman. Dear school board members, firstly, I want to thank you for everything you do for our school district, students, families, and teachers. I am proud to be a teacher in Norwood since 2005. It has brought me joy to teach the students in the city of Norwood and work with the families in the community. The teachers and administrators are so dedicated to the education and well-being of our youth. I would like to express my concern and personal experience with COVID-19. When we received the first survey, I voted to return 5 days a week. Since then, my viewpoint has changed. On October 12th, my dad was diagnosed with COVID-19 and admitted to the hospital. 2.5 weeks later, my dad died on October 28th. He had no pre-existing conditions that would complicate the virus, but it happened anyway. He was in the ICU, and watching him struggle to breathe absolutely broke my heart. My mom was diagnosed the same week, but thankfully her symptoms did not require hospitalization. I am writing to ask you to consider the risks to the students, families, and staff. Many of the teachers and their family members do not live in Norwood, so using the zip code for Norwood will not necessarily be accurate and representative of the district as a whole. Holidays are approaching, and I worry that the incidents will increase, and therefore cases and exposure will put more of our district at risk. Respectfully, Christy Pittman, Title I teacher at Sharpsburg. And that concludes the public comment.
All right, with that, we'll move on to our report section. And first off is 8.01, board announcements. Is there any board members that have any announcements that they would like to share? We'll move on to 8.02, which is the superintendent's report. Mrs. Ronan.
Yes, thank you, President Atwood. I do have a report. I've been told on December 12th, the shoes for the shoeless truck will be in the middle school parking lot, distributing shoes in all sizes for students who need them, because we know how quickly students outgrow their shoes. It will be similar to the farm to families distribution that went very smoothly. It is sponsored by Pastor Smith and Valley Church. They will be sending home flyers with for families closer to that date, but they would like us to have listeners who are hearing this announcement, let families who could possibly benefit this know that the truck will be here. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Ronan. Next is 8.03, and that's the Great Oaks report. I'd like to turn this over to Ms. Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Great Oaks report has a lot of ups and downs. I do want to pass my condolences on to the Pittman family. On October 28th, Great Oaks also lost one of its board members as well. Mrs. Deborah Delp, who was the representative from the Mason City Schools, passed away. And so our board held a little bit of a memorial for her at this past week's meeting. In addition to doing that notice of service, we also celebrated our Veterans Day by having our color guard present our flag corps featuring our ROTC students. So we did a little bit of a honorific service for them as well. Our charity fundraiser that we have been doing since the summer, it was structured a little bit differently because of COVID this year. So we've been raking in funds for the last few months, has raised over $35,000 for student scholarships this year. So we're really proud of those numbers. Our Laurel Oaks construction project is on track to be occupied by mid-December, and certain parts of it will go back when back to school opens in January for students. Our Diversity and Equity Committee had its first read for the new mission statement, and we hope to vote on that at December's meeting. The ACTE conference is scheduled to be a virtual conference, just like our Ohio School Board Association conference was recently. Those dates will be November 30th through December 4th. I'll be participating in that workshop as well, and I'll be giving you guys a report on what we learned at ACTE in next month's meeting. And my final update for all of our campuses have now been updated due to COVID to be all virtual learning at this time. That started on November 16th, Monday, and for the time being, we are set to return on December 3rd to the previous schedule. Again, those numbers can still be fluctuating based on whatever numbers we receive over the next couple of weeks. But for now, all students at every campus are virtual. And that concludes my report.
Perfect. Item number 8.04 is the Norwood Community Television Board Report. And so I have a couple of items that I'd like to share with the group. So first off, the district has purchased Pixelot systems. So this is video recording that is done at the high school and at Shea Stadium that allows anybody anywhere in the world to be able to access our video stream and watch sports from our Norwood student athletes. And because those are now in those places. NCT is now going to start filming some middle school sports, and they are getting ready for that, which is something that they haven't done before. So more coverage of our students that are going to be going out over the airwaves. And NCT is also working with Mrs. Kubesh on an audio podcast version of her talk show that was done for public access TV. So with that, that concludes my report. And we'll move on to 8.05, which is the legislative report. And I'd like to hand this over to Mrs. Rarica.
We've heard a lot of mine because we had some resolutions, but I did want to correct one thing. I did look it up. The Ohio Senate voted yesterday on that House Bill 89, and the House did vote today at 1 o'clock. Unfortunately.
Okay. And it passed both? Passed both?
You know what? I need to look that up. But don't wait for me.
No, so we're going to move on to 8.06, which is the Avenues for Success report. And I'll turn this over to Mrs. Graber.
So Avenues held a couple of think tank meetings with their stakeholders. One was earlier this week and another last week, just to kind of identify some needs in the community, as well as things, just kind of identify what Avenues does well, some challenges that they may be facing. And then that was kind of covered in the first meeting. The second meeting was just kind of, finding ideas of things that they can help, things that can be improved, different places where they can be reaching out. So in addition to that, they also have after school homework help going at 3 out of 5 of our schools right now. So that concludes.
All right. And that concludes all of the reports. Item number 9 on our meeting agenda is future meeting notifications. And we have listed in our agenda the next meetings are going to be December 8th, which is the committee meeting to be either virtual or a location to be determined. And then our board meeting to be held on December 17th, again, either virtual or location to be determined. I would like to make a motion to approve future meetings.
A second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
All right, and that leaves us all the way down to item number 11, and that's adjournment. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Any discussion?
Hey, I looked up the House Bill 89, and they haven't recorded what the vote was today. They had yesterday's, but not today.
All right. So
I know.
to be determined.
It's a good thing about a Zoom meeting. I can go look things up.
All right. So we have a motion to adjourn in a second. Mrs. Camphouse, please call the roll.
Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Cole,
Yes.
Miss Ballard,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Rarica.
Yes.
All right. And with our first fully virtual board meeting, a success, we are now adjourned.